The Assembly is your local devolved legislator in Northern Ireland. It is responsible for making laws in most aspects of our daily lives, such as the economy, hospitals and schools, roads and public transport, housing, agriculture, sport, culture and the environment. The ultimate goal of the Assembly is to improve these services for the benefit of all the people of Northern Ireland. The Assembly meets in Parliament buildings in Belfast, where MLAs debate issues and introduce laws to improve all of our lives. The Assembly also appoints the Executive Committee, which runs 11 government departments.
Clear the room and get down to work, please.
Northern Ireland is divided into 18 constituencies. Voters in each constituency elect 6 MLAs on the basis of proportional representation. Most MLAs are members of political parties, and there are currently 8 parties represented in the Assembly. The Assembly has the power to make laws about local issues, known as transferred or devolved matters. However, Westminster continues to make laws in some areas, known as reserved matters, such as income tax, defence and international relations. Powers were first devolved to the Assembly in December 1999, after the Belfast Agreement of the 10th of April 1998, also known as the Good Friday Agreement. It was the result of talks between the British and Irish governments and the political parties about how Northern Ireland should be governed in the future. It was agreed that Unionists and Nationalists would share the power to make decisions. Following a number of periods of suspension, further negotiations between the British and Irish governments and the political parties led to the St Andrews Agreement and the restoration of the Assembly in May 2007. After elections to the Assembly, the largest parties nominate ministers to sit on the Executive Committee. Ministers take charge of the 11 government departments. The work of the Executive Committee is coordinated jointly by the First Minister Peter Robinson and the Deputy First Minister Martin McGuinness. The ministers develop new policies and introduce proposals for new laws in their area of responsibility. These proposals for new laws, known as bills, must be examined and passed by the Assembly, and the Assembly scrutinises or checks the work of ministers and their departments to ensure they are doing a good job for all of us. Debates are held in the Assembly chamber on Mondays and Tuesdays. Here, MLAs debate and vote on the issues that concern all of us and pass laws that will apply to everyone. A typical day in the chamber will include executive business, committee business and an adjournment debate which gives MLAs opportunities to debate local constituency issues such as the provision of schools, hospitals and other important services.
Call the Minister of Social Development, Ms Margaret Ritchie. Ms Ritchie.
Question time takes place on Mondays from 2:30 to 4 p.m. It's an opportunity for MLAs to hold ministers to account and ask questions relating to the work of each government department.
My own department and others are going to have as flexible a response as possible.
Visitors are very welcome to sit in the public gallery and watch and listen firsthand to what is going on in the Assembly chamber. If you can't make it to Parliament buildings, you can still watch what is happening live on the Assembly website. That's www.niassembly.gov.uk. Meetings of the Assembly are chaired by the Speaker, William Hay. The Speaker has the sometimes challenging role of keeping order in the chamber and making sure that rules are followed by MLAs.
Could I remind members that the supplementary must relate to the question, and let me say to any member who gets up and knows quite well the supplementary is asking, doesn't relate to the question, will not catch my eye in this House for a long time for a supplementary.
Assembly committees meet to consider legislation and scrutinise the work of ministers and their departments. Committee meetings are generally open to the public, who can come in and observe first-hand committees in action.
How was this situation allowed to persist?
In committees, MLAs discuss policy proposals, consider laws and hold inquiries into a whole range of issues. Committees cannot work in isolation. They carry out some of the most specialised work of the Assembly and are keen to find out the views of those that might be affected most by an issue. This is, after all, what democracy is all about. Committees often hold meetings in towns and cities across Northern Ireland, widening people's access to the Assembly. It allows members to meet with local interested parties on issues of importance to the committee and the wider community. When the business of the Assembly has finished for the day, a new flow of visitors often arrive for evening events. The sound of music can often be heard through the building, whether it be a sedate tea party, orchestral music in the Great Hall, or a party to celebrate the achievements of young people. The Assembly attracts not only local people, but visitors from all corners of the world. Parliament buildings also played host to the landmark USNI Investment Conference. Among the visiting dignitaries were Prime Minister Gordon Brown and Taoiseach Brian Cowen, Mayor Michael Bloomberg of New York, ambassadors and senior diplomats. Democracy means rule by the people. People have a say in what happens and what is decided. Participation means taking part, and there are many ways to do this, such as voting, contacting your MLA, giving your views to a committee, or even standing for election. Education has the potential to provide the most effective means by which young people can be helped to understand the work of the Assembly and become interested and involved in the democratic process.
I think that children at the age of 12 should be allowed to vote because it may make a difference in who is elected.
The Education Service works with young people, teachers and others interested in learning more about the Northern Ireland Assembly. In 2008, 445 groups took part in the education programme, benefiting 14,200 participants, most under the age of 18. This number is continually rising. There are also many ways to keep up to date with what is happening in the Assembly, from watching the proceedings of the Assembly Chamber on the BBC's Parliament channel, watching Stormont Live on Monday and Tuesday afternoons, checking the website or making contact with the MLAs.
Well, this is the studio for Stormont Live. We have live coverage from the Chamber and discussion here in the studio, analysing and explaining, hopefully, what's going on here at Stormont.
The official report is another way of finding out what is going on in the Assembly. It's produced by Hansard and is an official record of everything that is said in the Assembly debates. From who said what to who voted on what, you can read all about it the very next day on the Assembly website. The Assembly believes in strengthening democracy and engaging the people in creating a better future for all. The Assembly is your Assembly, working for all of us.